Good morning, and thank you all for being here. I'm Baek from Villanova College, and I'm with my fellow colleagues, Alan, Jenya, and Justin. So our project focuses on the environmental analysis of the City of Toronto. So we chose this topic because we noticed the increasing industrial pollution by the City of Toronto has negatively impacted the environmental conditions of the city. Although the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change has attempted to improve our environment, the work can sometimes be ineffective due to the lack of focus. We designed a program that can help identify the neighborhoods with the worst environmental conditions, and we use the program Python to program our project. So our main idea. So our main objective is to identify neighborhoods in need of attention due to the poor environmental conditions. Using the findings, we can help offer information about the neighborhoods and the environmental concerns found in them. After we acknowledge the concerns, we could discuss possible solutions and areas of improvement. Discussing the solution will not only have the ministry to be aware of this problem, but also the citizens in the neighborhoods. So the data sets that we use, so we use the data sets from the Toronto Open data set. So we use the environment Excel spreadsheet, which just gives the general environmental status, the demographics, which just give the demographics, and the renewable energy installed in the neighborhoods. So while doing this project, we found 4 main factors that we have to incorporate. The first one is the general pollutants released to the air, which harms the air quality. The second is the pollutant carcinogenic TEP score. So TEP stands for toxic equivalency potentials that indicate the relative health risk associated to a release of 1 pound of the chemical. The main health risks for the TEP would be cancer. And we also use the non-carcinogenic TEP score, which still has the effect of the environmental conditions. Even though this does not cause cancer, this will still contribute to the amount of greenhouse gases released into the environment. And the last factor that we used is tree cover. So the reason why we use tree cover is because we found less tree cover that a neighborhood has, the more space there is for industries, companies, and buildings. This would show that there are much more pollutants and carcinogens in that neighborhood. The tree cover is also used to resolve the problem of 2 neighborhoods with the same amount of pollutants. So we're not saying that the neighborhood had. Okay, so the process that we've done is that if the 2 neighborhood has the same amount of pollutants, we would see which one has more tree cover and which one has less to see which neighborhood of the 2 needs immediate attention. So we're not saying that the 2 neighborhoods, the one eliminated isn't important. We're just saying that since our main objective is to see the worst neighborhood that has the worst environmental conditions, we just use the tree cover to eliminate and cut down the list that we need to start on. So lastly, as you know, trees can absorb carbon dioxide that are one of the main greenhouse gases. The trees would absorb carbon dioxide and turn it into oxygen through photosynthesis, which improves the air quality.
So now let's focus on the neighborhood evaluation. So first, think about this. If 2 neighborhoods have the same amount of pollutants, the neighborhood with a smaller total area will have a worse environmental condition, obviously. So because of this, we divided each factor by the total area of that neighborhood. For example, instead of using pollutant carcinogenic TEP score, we use pollutant carcinogenic TEP score per unit of area. Here is our core algorithm. First of all, we sort the neighborhoods from the worst to best according to each factor. And for each factor, we separate the worst 25% to a new set. We will explain why it is 25% later. So now we get 4 sets, and we find the intersection of those 4 sets. Finally, we process other information about each neighborhood in the intersection and output more comprehensible information. Why 25%? So according to the analysis of data in 2011, when an index is not in the top 25%, it totally becomes the average level. But if we further lower this percent, we might meet some neighborhoods with noticeably unpleasant environmental conditions. So 25% is an experimental value. Also, our program ended up finding 12 neighborhoods, which is around 9% of 140 neighborhoods. The reasons to use the intersections are listed here. First of all 4 factors are very critical values in the evaluation of the environmental condition. So what we are really trying to find are those neighborhoods that are in the most need of the overall improvement. So by using the intersection, we can actually concentrate on fewer neighborhoods, which give us a small group to concentrate our effort on. So those are the neighborhoods that we finally find, and the red ones are the neighborhood ID.
So now that we've gone over the actual program and the algorithm that has been created, we'll go over the output of the program. So the first thing that it does for each neighborhood is it outputs the name and the neighborhood ID so we can identify which one it is. Then, the next thing is the priority. This is the factor out of the 4 that we have looked for that has the worst ranking or worst environmental condition of them in that neighborhood. So that's the most important thing that we have to fix in that neighborhood and the most recent thing, and we have to fix it first. The other things that are outputted are information about population density, green space, and the number of green rebate programs. And words and phrases like very little, little, moderate to high, and very high are the 25% intervals. So very little would be like the bottom 25%, 25 to 50% would be little, 50 to 75% would be moderate or high, and the top 25% would be high or very high. Also, the program outputs the number of renewable energy projects or plans, if there are any. It prints the name of the location and the area where it is, the type of energy that is being produced, the size in kilowatts that it produces in energy, and the year that it started. Now, note that sometimes the year that it was created may be after the data sets that we got, which were in 2011, which may alter the results in the current modern world right now. But as of 2011, the results that we have are as they are, and it could be different than it actually is today. So our general results. 5 out of the 12 neighborhoods have renewable energy plans, and 7 do not. All the neighborhoods have a variety of population and population density, which means that there are lots of people affected by these poor environmental conditions in all the areas. To utilize the final output, we have to analyze each neighborhood specifically based on the extra information that we have given, so that we can understand where these pollutants and carcinogens are coming from and how to deal with them. Then we can limit from the industries and the sources of them how much they are allowed to produce in order to try and help the environmental and air conditions. Now we've got problems with our algorithm. So the first thing is that it's based on a ranking. So that means that if you got a first place for worst conditions in a factor such as carcinogenic TEP scores, and second and third place, regardless of whether the first place and second place have a very large gap between them or a very small gap, the program treats them as equally. So if 2 neighborhoods are close together, it'll still treat them as one better and one worse, regardless of whether they're close together or far apart. The other thing is that the intersection will miss certain neighborhoods that have really poor environmental conditions in 1 or more factors, but not all of them. And therefore, we'll have outliers, as you will see in the graphs, that miss certain neighborhoods that are not part of the intersection. But the results still show that we have captured many of the neighborhoods that are in need of extreme environmental change, and that we are doing well and promoting that change.
Okay, so now I'd like to visualize all this information to you so you can see and understand what it's actually about. We have created some graphs, such as this one. This is sorry. We have created some graphs which show the factors that we have isolated for. First off, this graph shows and outlines which neighborhoods have the most pollutants released into the air. I would like you to know that the numbers on the side represent the community IDs which have abnormally high values, as you can see on the graph. The ones highlighted in red are the ones that our program found are in critical condition. The ones that are in black are the ones that did not make our list. And then we have graphs which show the TP scores of all the neighborhoods. First, we have the carcinogenic TP score. And again, as you can see, what Justin was talking about, that there are some neighborhoods which have extremely high values, and the next one down has a smaller value, and the gap is very big. I'll propose an idea to improve that later. After that, we have the non-carcinogenic TP score. As again, pointing out that a lot of the communities did not make it onto our final list of critical states. Even though that non-carcinogenic TP score is not as dangerous to the person, it still contributes to the overall bad environmental state of these neighborhoods. And lastly, we have our tree cover. For this one, we did not include the communities on the side because most of them are in the same general area, except for a few outliers, like that one up there and a few ones down here. Our program takes all this information and makes a report about it in the output. So now I would like to talk about some improvements that we can make to our program, to our algorithm. One of the things that we can improve about our algorithm is for us to find and diversify more ways to rank neighborhoods, which would allow for greater ranges of results and therefore more areas of improvement in the neighborhoods. Not only would this show more specific places the neighborhoods need improvement, but it would also allow us to see what factors correlate and affect the overall environmental health of these neighborhoods. This would also allow us to include current outliers, such as the ones we saw on the graph. After that, this leads into the fact that our algorithm is unable to look at big gaps, like I have discussed before. These gaps are very big, and we could find a way, which we did later, to improve our algorithm to include these large gaps. When available, we could also take newer information from more recent years, and from there see how the environmental conditions have changed. This could provide us with an insight on where and how to focus more effort and resources to give aid to those neighborhoods and show us what help is actually effective. And most importantly, the biggest next step we could take is to do further investigations and find out which companies or industries are emitting these pollutants. We could then work with the companies to reduce their emissions of harmful gases and to provide a cleaner and cleaner industry. With this method, the City of Toronto could also make newer jobs to work in this new green environment. This would generally together improve the quality of life in the City of Toronto. Now Alan is going to talk a little bit about how we can improve our algorithm again.
So first, I would like to talk about how we define the average level of the data. We came up with this method after we handed in our report and the program. So we haven't put it into practice, but we would like to talk about it. First thing, we need to define the average level of data. So again, 25% is just an experimental value. So for more specific analysis, for each factor, after sorting the sequence according to that factor, we want to find a group of data with small standard deviation while trying to keep that group as big as possible. So first, the initial group include all neighborhoods from the worst to the best. And then we try to shorten that group on both ends. Remember, at this time, the sequence is already sorted. So we try to shorten that group from both ends. Once the standard deviation varies less than 5% after being shorted on one side, we stop shortening the group on that side. So in this way, we can actually find this average level, average group, and we can get the neighborhoods worse than that, which are the worst group of neighborhoods. And
finish on.
okay, so we can get the average value of the worst group, and any particular neighborhoods with a value 30% worse than the average value should be directly put into the final answer set. And for others, we use our previous method, which is to find the intersection of all sets. We believe that we can avoid the outliers in this way.
Okay. So thank you very much for listening. And to quickly summarize, we used our knowledge of programming and data analytics to observe and analyze the environmental conditions of Toronto neighborhoods. And using the information we have found, we can raise awareness in those neighborhoods and improve the quality of daily life for them.